It's really wonderful to see a mountain, and but then want to climb it and put your blood on top of it. It's wonderful to create your few or your own mountain so that you can climb it and put your blood on top of it. But it is also wonderful to know why you are doing that or why you are compelled to climb mountains in the first place. And you might discover that everyone values the mountain, but you actually love the sea, and perhaps swimming is what you really should know. We know, and if you're calling it a mountain, then by all means to climb a mountain. But if you have question about the sea, you must run where the experience and see what happens. Like me to involve, and if you are not, you are taking small incremental changes that build up over time to create a large change, and then you are probably dead. And that shouldn't really be a goal of anyone. Like, I think every day I get up and I say, what are my priorities? And then I move toward one that. And sometimes, honestly, my priorities are to see how many back-to-back episodes of whatever I'm watching on Netflix I can watch. If you just count on show Sunday, then I need in order to my best self or in the world morning and sometimes is how much of my to-do list can I crank through before lunch, and so I tell myself to do a list of other things that are also insignificant compared to the things that I have already done. I have already survived or already accomplished. That it's almost laughable that they think they can stand there on my to-do list, like they are actually mocking at me. And so if you get to the point where you say, well, I have already pushed through something uncomfortable, but I already done something that I didn't think that I was able to do, that I have skill to do, that I have confidence to even try, but yet circumstance interrupt and I was forced to. I have already done this thing, and yet I was different contests, and maybe already my personal contests are natural contests. Now in my case, we were theater and not in the stand world, but I have already is put up concept is already there. So what reason do I have to believe? And this is not going to work again. So not thinking about this until novel new things because you do get a fear response to new things because our brain trying to protect us from things that's maybe dangerous that we don't know anything about, and we're realizing that the fact is familiar test that clock in a new environment. And so I think that there are lots of be safe for looking back at our success and not just appreciating them, but really recognizing that the new challenges in fact are our dragon we already slain. A lot of early accomplishments that I have made were because I didn't realize that were good for option, and there's actually a type of method for teaching, and I also used to play the violin, and I was taught with the Suzuki method. And when you look up for Suzuki method, you have all these for 4, 5, 6 years old that are playing violin. Consider that are for beyond that what you would think somebody of that age should be able to do, and it's because nobody told them and they shouldn't be able to do, and that's basically my reality. I was told, well, you are 11, you're gonna be start going to college, so I went to the expectation was you are supposed to get good grades, and every time they was put in front of me, I didn't realize you could not accomplish it. It suggests that we will never really know who we are different have been if we have made it like one different decision, way back there in our childhood. But because of the way the brain developed, we are more emotionally susceptible to the experience that we have early on in life than we are later in life. We have to live in this society, and that's been great for us. And there's certain reputation that one is a contributing member of the community of humanity, and that can be accomplished in many different ways. I think if I had a good group of young people that were responsible for, I would try and listen more, and maybe my parents did too, what each of them want. I certainly wouldn't try mentor about them because you can do that, right? Put them in a situation where they can find people to emulate and to look up to and to ask the right question, because the worst thing in the world is to have an manipulative mind or to have a question and to not know the right people have less resources to get answers. So the youthful brain is still plastic, is still developing, and is more susceptible to information in certain way instead of other. I would use stories, I would use imaginative language and humor, but there's a certain amount of finishing that happened in those last few years in the early 20s, which is the development of prefrontal cortex, which is sort of was remarkable both for those our ability to think logically and to predict outcome, and also maybe a little bit for us to check the negative outcome as well, right? So our optimism follow victim to reality brain are lazy because models nature is lazy. There should be a justifiable reason for our instinct, but because they're using resources that are important for our survival. So if our brain are lazy and they follow the process that are easier for them to follow. If you have consistently trained our brain and tool like reframing that positive, the optimistic outcome is a tricky one to think about, and it has to work really hard to think about the negative one unless it feels threatened in some way. It will go seem good enough because it's a predict machine. It's like I predict. It is probably that's going to what happen. It will be a positive outcome. There might be an outcome factor, but the energy I would be spending thinking about those factor that doesn't seem in line necessary for the importance of decisions so good enough. Our brain really don't like to be bored. They get very unhappy if they're under stimulation, and then that can go to solving the problem in many different ways. Not just how can I solve the problem short term, but how can I ensure that it's not going to be problem in the long run. Emotion were not useful, or. Is actively describing how to build my life entirely logically. Now, let's obviously like we humans, so impossible. We make emotional decisions all the time, but young fool developing feeling that is something that can be done and it can, you know, always do the right things. And the right things is lucky, but then as I start to learn about the brain and as I start to learn about myself, I realized that I didn't have a lot of experience in seeing what would happen. I just let them come as more people experience with this and delusions, but they don't know what they're experiencing. Just this emotion. They just thinking how am I? This who I am. Right? They don't think about it. That's right. I went to New York and I joined an urban early school which is very no school of modern dance. There is Houghton and I was gonna be a dancer, but there was sort of crack in the facade a little bit, but it wasn't fulfilled, and we are a dancer. Especially when you are a young dancer, you are treated as if you don't mind of your own. You're simply body addressed aesthetic director and the crew for the teachings is giving out put and to give it back. And for someone that already had a bachelor's degree in biochemistry, that was really satisfying. Especially when I would make comments about biochemistry, like they don't eat too much turkey for Thanksgiving because then you fall asleep because try to find it would be like to do how many turkey I have to eat, but I digress. I digress. All I have for a woman is that they stop worrying about whether or not fitting in and whether or not supposed to be emulating the man or making a point of being female, and they start just taking their power, taking their place at the table and not asking permission for it. And we all have of this challenging women have to do that. They have had they are still there and still broken. But I think for the massive thing, we are always trying to get women STEM now, a woman including and so and is alive. I hope this isn't offensive, like storming on the beach at the ceremony. Like we just put enough women into the populace, and the fact that so leaky won't be a problem. We eventually get enough of them to tend to check positions. That they will start to be positive feedback loop, and I think that for the massive, it can be very to be at your best. Being if you're being in is enough.